Hey, we're here to make you an offer you can't refuse on the Godfather Minute. I'm Alex Robinson.
And I'm Andy Robinson.
And we're back for another minute of the Godfather Minute, in which we analyze the Godfather movies 1 minute at a time. We're currently up to minute 21. Blackjack.
21, yeah, which is, Alex, I think it's fitting because everyone's drinking wine in the scene.
Mm-hmm. Wait, what does that do with 21?
Well, there's a legal age.
That's true.
Well, I have a feeling that Don wasn't checking IDs, if you know what I mean.
These kids with their fake IDs. Yeah. So minute 21 starts off with.
Whoa! We gotta put the brakes on it. You guys.
Sorry. I'm just so eager to get to the meat. What else do we have?
Speaking of the meat, meet your Italian lesson for the day, Alex. E minuto numero 21.
21.
I said
minuto numero 21.
It's actually, I mispronounced it. It should be a V, like 21.
21. Numero. No, wait. Sorry.
Say it with me. Say it with me.
Minuto numero 20.
21.
21.
That's good.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah. I'm getting there.
All right. Grazie.
So, yes, this is Minuto numero 21.
Nice.
Of The Godfather. And this is pretty much just a monologue from, it starts off with Michael telling Kay that Johnny was under a personal service contract to a big band leader. Mm-hmm. And then he tells the
hotshot big band leader.
Tells the story, more or less tip to tail, of the whole saga of Johnny Fontaine getting out of his record contract.
Mm-hmm.
And
personal service contract.
Personal service.
I love that term. I always wondered how is that different from any other contract that's around with movie stars.
I don't know. I don't know anything much about contracts and tenders. It sounds like it should be for another. Someone should do a show just focusing on the legal aspects of.
I think we should invite a lawyer down to maybe as a bonus episode to comment on all the legal aspects.
We have to pay him though. We'd have to pay him to show up. Those lawyers, one lawyer with a briefcase is really expensive.
Well, I do have a friend here in town in Portland who is a lawyer who may come join us because he's not very busy. He only has one client.
Oh wow, that's special. Or he's a really bad lawyer that he only has one client.
He'd be dying to come on our podcast. I'm looking for work, any work.
Well, speaking of dying, so Michael tells the story about how Johnny was under a personal service contract to a big band leader. He wanted to get out. Mm-hmm. And
as his career was growing,
yes, and the band leader wouldn't let him. And then Luca Brasi and the Don came, held a gun to the band leader's head, and said, "Either your brains or your signature will be on this contract." He gave him $1,000. He took $1,000 payment, and then he was done.
Yeah, and he gave him a certified check for $1,000.
Yeah, $1,000. A certified check. I'm surprised that Don would take checks. Oh no, this Don gave the check.
Yeah,
I'm surprised he would do a certified check.
And rewatching this minute, that really stood out to me. Is a certified check one you get from a bank? Is that like a money order?
You know what? We need to have a lawyer and a banker.
We do need a lawyer and a banker. On the bonus content, we were going to...
No, I really don't know what... I'm assuming a certified check is something like it's as good as cash. Like it's backed by the bank.
Yeah. Well, and maybe that's why the Don had it.
Right, but I assumed he was a cash guy.
Yeah, but officially to have Johnny released from the contract, he would probably need to provide documentation and cash wouldn't cut it. That's my only guess.
So when he did it on his taxes, were they like, where did this $1,000, or was it, I guess it would be the Genco olive oil company?
Yeah. Do you think the Genco olive oil company had enough credit to buy him out?
Wait, he buys them out? You buy me out?
Yeah, so I think it's funny just the idea of, all right, you're going to take this check. Luca, go down to the what is it called? The notary, the notary public down the street and get the sign. And Luca's like, notary? Look, I am honored to. Can you imagine the exchange between the notary public and Luca Brasi?
Oh man, that would be such a good. I would love to see the adventures of young young Vito Corleone with Luca Brasi, like as his like dumb sidekick.
Oh my gosh! Oh, that'd be so great.
So a weird thing about that. I'm really surprised that Vito Corleone himself would go talk to the band leader.
Well, yes, there's a bit about this in the book. Is now a good time to go into it?
Are you telling me the movie is different than the book?
Alex, the book is different than the movie.
The book is different than the movie. The book is different than the movie. The book is different. The book is different. The book is different than the movie. Yeah.
So there are a few parts to the book that I need to read. A few different chunks that have to do with this story. So let me just dive in. On page 42, Puzo writes about... this is Michael telling Kay the story, and he wrote, he told her without being funny. He told it without pride. This is Michael to Kay. He told it without any sort of explanation, except that 8 years before his father had been...
So 8 years before
it's
this?
Only 8 years before.
Huh.
That 8 years before, his father had been more impetuous. And because the matter concerned his godson, the Don considered it an affair of personal honor.
Ah, I see. So whereas so going by that logic, since Bonacera's daughter is the goddaughter of Mama Corleone, shouldn't Mama Corleone have been the one going to beat up those those animals?
I see a spin-off sitcom. Or maybe not a sitcom, but a 3-episode special. That'd be great. She's like, either your brains or your signature is going to be on this. That's awesome. One other piece about the contract on the same page, Puzo writes, let's see, it was a well-known show business personality named Les Haley, and he had signed Johnny to a 5-year personal services contract. It was a common show business practice. Les Haley could now loan Johnny out and pocket most of the money.
Ah, I see.
So I don't think it was like nowadays where, hey, you're agreeing to perform 15 shows and as a result you get this money. It's more like I own you. You're mine, and I can farm you out to
the
perform.
Movie industry used to be like that. Like
really?
You were signed to a studio, and the studio would just give you projects and stuff. Or sometimes, like MGM would make a deal with Warner Brothers and say,
and you would keep working.
Yeah, you'd just be on loan to a different company,
and I guess you would get something from that.
Well, yeah, you're still getting paid by MGM. You know what I mean? If I'm under contract to MGM and you loan me out to Warner Brothers, I'm still just getting money from MGM.
But do you get additional money because they're having you work more? I don't
think so.
Oh, wow.
But, I think all the business negotiations are between the
big studio hotshots. Yeah. Well, and in this passage, it makes it sound like Puzo wrote, Les Haley could now loan Johnny out and pocket most of the money.
Right.
So it sounds like really Johnny wasn't making any additional money, or maybe was a little bit.
Right, yeah.
Or was supposed to, but...
Right, he was
under
the
big shot band leader was taking more of the money. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about math.
Oh, so that was the only difference between the... I do like...
Oh, well, just that part. Okay, but there's a little bit more in here.
Okay, math break.
Math break.
What's I was told there would be no math. So
so now we need a statistician, a mathematician, a banker, and a lawyer.
Yes.
They all walk into a room or into a bar. So this part has to do with the math. Puzo wrote, Don Corleone entered the negotiations personally. He offered Les Haley $20,000 to release Johnny Fontaine from the personal services contract.
Now, that's some certified check.
But interestingly, in the movie, Michael says it was just $10,000. Well, I'm wondering why they changed it.
Well, okay, go ahead.
Puzo continues, Haley offered to take only 50% of Johnny's earnings. Don Corleone was amused. He dropped his offer from $20,000 to $10,000. The band leader, obviously not a man of the world outside his beloved show business, completely missed the significance of this lower offer. He refused. So interesting. Don started at 20.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, and then dropped it to 10. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So the band leader just didn't get it. Any comments about that yet?
Well, it's a neat. Just when you're describing it there, the first thing I thought of is the scene between Michael Corleone and Senator Pat Geary in the office in Godfather 2, where he's like, "Well, here's my you can have my offer now," which is like nothing, and I appreciate you putting up the money.
Yeah.
It's almost like a more hardball version of that. But,
Well, as we're going to see in the next passage, the Don keeps going with this.
yeah.
So the next day, this is why I wanted to get into this part, because it has to do with Don being there. The next day, Don Corleone went to see the band leader personally, again, probably because of the honor of his godson. He brought with him his two best friends, Genco Abandando, who was his consigliere, and Luca Brasi.
Oh,
So I'm
he's the
wondering,
muscle.
I'm wondering why he brought his consigliere with him.
Maybe just because he wanted to make sure the contracts were all in order, and he's the notary too. He stamps it. And
That's true. Yeah. After the band leader is terrified, Genco comes in and says, all right, you need to sign here. This is duplicate. We need to go get this copy.
Either that or he just needed someone to babysit Luca while he was talking the grown-ups talk.
That's right. Someone always needs to be with Luca.
Keep him busy. There's like a string, a cup and a string with a ball at the end.
And maybe Genco is helping Luca practice what he's going to say to the band leader if necessary. Kind of like someone's always coaching him. And then Puzo writes, with no other witnesses, Don Corleone persuaded Les Haley to sign a document giving up all rights to all services from Johnny Fontaine upon payment of a certified check to the amount of $10,000. So the Don actually keeps it 10, which was his second offer.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is different from Michael later in Godfather 2. Michael just drops it right to the bottom.
Yeah,
so
totally.
he learned from his father, but he doubled down. Took it a
Yeah.
step
Well, yeah.
further.
This is when the Don would have been. If it was 8 years ago, he would have been weaker, not as powerful. So he couldn't really. He probably didn't have so many judges in his pockets
interesting.
like so many nickels and dimes.
Yeah.
So he had to be a bit more like conciliatory.
Yeah, he just still didn't have the muscle to be able to.
Whereas Michael in Godfather 2 is like the height of his empire.
Yeah, neat. And this is interesting too in the book. The next passage, Don Corleone did this by putting a pistol to the forehead of the band leader and assuring him with the utmost seriousness that either his signature or his brains would rest on that document in exactly 1 minute. Fascinating that Don himself put the gun to his head. I never figured that in the movie. I always assumed it was Luca Brasi, the muscle.
Yeah, that's true. You assume that Luca was doing it while the Don was just standing there talking or whatever.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's weird about that is he puts the gun to his forehead. So you assume that if the Don pulled the trigger, well, then his brains would have gone out the back of his head.
Oh,
so was the
yeah.
contract behind the guy? Was it still like in his files and stuff?
It must have been like a pin the tail on the donkey thing. Like the contract was on the wall, and then Les Haley, the big shot band leader, was in front of it. Oh, but turned to the side, a la mugshot style.
Oh, some mugshot style.
Well, I'm sorry, side mugshot style.
Yeah,
So that
profile.
way- yeah, profile.
Yeah.
Right? But then it's hard to sign the document if you're not looking at it.
Oh, yeah. Maybe that's why he was so reluctant to do it.
Oh my God. Now we need a CSI
That's true.
expert to come in and recreate this.
The Mythbusters to set up like a dummy and stuff. Because I would have assumed, like we were talking about, the Don was talking to the guy, to the big shot band leader, and then like Luca was behind him, and then put the gun on the back of his head.
That's
and
how I
then the
thought.
moment of him being like, "Oh, a gun just went off," was cocked behind my head.
Yeah.
And then if his brains had come out, they would have been on the. Although then they would have been all over the Don too. So he probably didn't want to be like. Oh boy, this is I think a lot of things into consideration.
My God, maybe that's why they had Genco there.
Oh, you always had the head for big deals.
Pop had Genco. Look who we had.
Sonny's suit is all covered in brains. And
Well, I just realized another thing. If they had gotten the brains on the contract, Johnny still would not have gotten out of that contract. He still would have been tied to the contract.
Well, maybe unless the
right?
contract said if the big band leader dies, then the contract is he's freed from his either that or whoever was next in line would be like, if this guy comes to you and says, okay, now you're going to be reasonable, right?
There's blood all over the contract's Jenko.
Like wiping it off.
And of course, that guy refuses, and then it goes to the next guy in line. But by the time it gets to the fourth guy, you can't even read the writing.
Eventually, it's like the third guitarist in the band. He's like, what are you guys talking about?
Man, I was just hired up. He's not even an original member of the band.
It's like, I'm trying to get out of my contract.
Oh, interesting. So, just interesting. I think it would be great how if they could remake this, and we've talked about remaking it, or they could include some of these scenes that you're just told about, but you don't actually witness.
All right, maybe that'll be today's bonus content. We'll talk about other scenes we would like to see dramatized.
Oh, nice.
That we hear being mentioned on the show. Okay,
that'd be great. Bonus content. Be a good bonus content.
Bonus content. Yeah, so Patreon, stick around. You get to hear us talk about what bonus scenes we'd like to see in the remake of The Godfather. So, did you have anything else that was different from the book? Because I'm going to go into the real life inspiration for this famous scene.
I have one more thing about the book, but I'll talk about it after you talk about your bit.
Okay.
Because it actually has to do with Kay's response to Michael.
Okay. Do you want to do it now, or okay? We'll
I'll come back to it.
Okay. So, as a lot of people know, this particular incident, Johnny Fontaine was based a lot on the chairman of the board himself, Old Blue Eyes, Frank Sinatra.
Oh, Frankie.
Mario Puzo, was open about that. Said that he was inspired by Frank Sinatra.
Wow.
And when his story more or less follows the same thing, Frank Sinatra was part of the Tommy Dorsey band. This is when big bands and stuff, and they would have like 4 singers that would change around and stuff. And I also have a musical question to ask you. So anyway, so Frank Sinatra was working for Tommy Dorsey. So Tommy Dorsey was a trombonist. Imagine the leader of your band is the trombonist.
Wow, that's such a different time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
used to play trombone. The trombone is a respected brass instrument in the band.
Yeah, but every song's all womp, 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 womp.
Oh, great callback. We haven't done that in minutes.
It's true. So when Frank Sinatra was a young singer and he was watching, he looked up to Tommy Dorsey. He was a big band leader. And Tommy Dorsey apparently was like really famous for his breath control.
Wow.
Like he could hold a note really long. Like, and Frank Sinatra would look at him and go like, how does he do that without like having to stop and inhale and stuff?
So he would do like, yeah,
exactly.
It's like Flight of the Bumblebees on trombone.
Back in the 40s, people had such a different idea of like entertainment. So
no wonder that guy was leading the band.
So Frank Sinatra said that he eventually figured out Tommy Dorsey's secret, which was that he would have a small opening. It was described as a pinhole, and he was basically inhaling. He was inhaling and exhaling. He was inhaling while he was exhaling.
Wow, yeah.
And then Frank Sinatra, once he discovered the secret, trained himself to do it. And he was like, that's what he attributed a lot of his vocal skills to. But I have no idea. Is this a thing? How can you inhale and exhale at the same time?
If you could.
We'd have to get a doctor. We'd have to get a throat doctor.
Got an ENT. I remember when I was learning trombone way back in high school, I think it may have been my band director suggesting that it could be done.
Wow.
And I thought it was through your nose while you're exhaling through your mouth.
Yeah, but I just mean in terms of the mechanics of the bellows of your lungs.
Maybe people have one lung is inhaling and the other I don't know.
That's
We're
crazy.
going to have to look that up.
Yeah.
If any of you listeners hear about this,
any
please.
trombonists or ENTs or accountants or
just send them our way.
Yeah, no worries.
So Frank Sinatra learned how to do that, and that helped his performances.
Yeah. So and then eventually Frank Sinatra's star started to rise, and like he wanted to get out of his contract, and so under the contract, Tommy Dorsey would get 43% of whatever Frank Sinatra earned for the rest of his career.
Oh my goodness.
That was like the standard contract, I guess, at the time. So you can imagine how valuable that would have, because I can imagine most of the singers went on to nothing.
Yeah.
But you catch that big one, like you catch a Frank Sinatra, you're set for life. So officially, some lawyers and friends went to talk to Tommy Dorsey, and then Tommy Dorsey signed him over for $75,000. He got $75,000.
That's pretty good money at that time.
Oh yeah, totally, and much more than the $1,000 that this mystery band leader got.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. So it really was. Was that public knowledge? That whole story.
It was probably
and is
like
that why
showbiz.
Puzo wrote about it?
It was probably showbiz lore. You know, it was probably like you always hear rumors about celebrities and stuff.
Yeah.
And so this is supposedly what happened, and we'll talk about the other Frank Sinatra connection in the later scene when he's talking about the movie, because that also is based on a thing in Frank Sinatra's
neat.
life.
Excellent.
So in his autobiography, Mario Puzo wrote about the one time he met Frank Sinatra.
Oh, wow.
And, so Frank Sinatra's always denied there was any mob ties or anything like that. So this is what in Mario Puzo's book he said. He was at a party, and the host said, "Oh, I have to introduce Mario Puzo to Frank Sinatra, just because it's such a thing." And so, according to Mario Puzo's memoir, Sinatra started to shout abuse, but what hurt was that there he was, a northern Italian threatening me, a southern Italian, with physical violence. This was roughly the equivalent of Einstein pulling a knife on Al Capone. It just wasn't done. I like how that's when he's not like this that like Italian pride. This what is it that what was Kay's term? The
Sicilian thing.
Yeah, the Sicilian thing.
Well, it's interesting, but it's interesting he's comparing Northern Italians to Einstein, the brains.
Right, yeah.
And Southern Italians to kind of like the cunning, I guess equally smart.
Yeah,
but just
different type of smarts.
Yeah.
So he says, it just wasn't done. Northern Italians never mess with Southern Italians except to get them put in jail or deported to some desert island. Sinatra kept up his abuse, and I kept staring at him. He kept staring down at his plate, yelling. So I guess he wasn't looking Puzo in the eye. He was like eating his meal while he was.
So this was a dinner party? They're all at the table.
or maybe like a buffet or something.
Yeah.
So it wasn't.
That's awkward.
Yeah. Sinatra kept up abuse, and I kept staring at him. He kept staring down at his plate, yelling. He never looked up. And then some reports suggest that John Wayne, seated nearby, offered to punch Puzo if necessary.
Oh my gosh.
So there you go.
We should, you know what? One of the bonus materials, we should get a guest in and recreate. Like write a script of that.
So you have to
all
hire
three of us.
A Frank Sinatra impersonator, a Mario Puzo impersonator, and a John Wayne impersonator.
Although it sounds like Mario Puzo didn't say anything, so you and I could probably just do the John Wayne.
Oh, that's true.
Hey, old Blue Eyes, you need me to sock him out for you?
That's pretty good. Pilgrim, you used to call him Pilgrim.
Hey, Pilgrim. Hey, Pilgrim Blue. Was it Blue Eyes?
Well, Blue Eyes, yeah.
Hey, old Pilgrim Blue Eyes. Yeah, I'll punch him if you want. He wrote a good book, but...
That's the guy who wrote that book. Yeah, anyway. So there you go.
Fascinating. The one time he met Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, so I guess he was... and there's never been any proof or anything about it.
Where's your proof? Where's your proof, lawyer?
So, I guess the mob, there was no certified check to no smoking gun certified check, but
yeah, and Frank Sinatra's a law-abiding guy. He owns stock in IBM and AT&T.
It's true. What is his right to do so? So because at first I was thinking like I would love to think people would think I was juiced in with the mob.
Yeah.
But I guess if I really was, I wouldn't want that because I don't want anyone nosing around where they don't belong, So
although I wonder if it were nowadays, they make reality shows and it's kind of cool. It's really a feather in your cap to be in that scene, I think.
Yeah, I would say now it probably.
But at that time, you still ran the risk of being indicted, and it was underground activity.
So I'm guessing Frank Sinatra knew. I'm just imagining Frank Sinatra sitting down to watch The Godfather for the first time, being like, "What the fuck?" like $1,000. But
my voice isn't weak. I can't do a Frank Sinatra impression.
I can't either. If I do Joe Piscopo doing Frank Sinatra.
Oh, okay.
It's just kind of like all right, listen. No, it's like
he's like, I never went whimpering. I act like a man. Of course, I spend time with my family. He's like shouting at the screen.
So yeah, that's the story of Frank Sinatra, part 1.
Well, it's up to you, New York. I'm wondering if Frank Sinatra like if he had not had that, assuming this is true, if he had not had that connection to organized crime, would he have become the international sensation he became? But just like Johnny Fontaine, it sounds like Johnny Fontaine would not have gotten anywhere without his Godfather's help.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to say because there's so many, showbiz there's so many variables and,
But if he had been locked into that personal services contract, who knows?
Yeah. So did you want to bring up your thing about Kay now?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I'm going to come back to the book. On page 43, Puzo wrote, and this is right after Mike told Kay the story that we just told. Kay said thoughtfully, "Are you sure you're not jealous of your father?
Ooh.
Everything you've told me about him shows him doing something for other people. He must be good-hearted." She smiled wryly. Of course his methods are not exactly constitutional. Michael sighed. "I guess that's the way it sounds. But let me tell you this. You know those Arctic explorers who leave caches of food scattered on the route to the North Pole? Just in case they may need them someday. That's my father's favors. Someday he'll be at each one of those people's houses, and they had better come across."
Wow.
Isn't that interesting? I know it wasn't in the movie. I don't want to share that interesting concept of being so meticulously thoughtful, planning all these little favors that he's asking and building up.
Do you think he keeps it in his mental? Does he just keep it in his brain, or does he have like an index card system?
Or maybe Tom Hagen has them all archived.
Yeah,
he probably doesn't document them anywhere. That would just be too.
Yeah, that would be
dangerous.
Yeah.
But interesting that he's going to cash in on some of those. And Alex, he's going to cash in on one of those in particular fairly soon.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Trying to think of how many favors we see called in. But anyway, we'll speaking of other things we're going to see soon. This is the minute where we hear the famous expression, "Make someone an offer they can't refuse." Yeah. That line is said 3 more times throughout the movie. Can you name all 3 times where someone talks about making an offer someone else cannot refuse?
Can I do that right now? Or are you asking our listeners?
No. Well, the listeners can play along at home.
Listeners, pause this podcast and try to do it without cheating. I will try right now. So you're saying 3 other times just in Godfather 1?
Just in Godfather 1.
Okay. One that stands out is Michael later when he's... Oh no! That's when he says, "Sonny, it's just business. It's not personal."
Another.
Sonny says, "We're going to make him an offer he can't refuse." But who he's saying that to Tom Hagen, right?
No, to Michael actually.
To Michael
about like Talia or something.
Yeah, this is after
the war. After
the war began. Yeah. That's one. Michael has to say it at some point.
He does. But whom to? And you're forgetting another super big one.
Oh, and of course, The Godfather says it when he sets up Tom Hagen to go to Hollywood.
Yeah.
When was the Michael one?
Well, he actually says it to Johnny.
He says it to Johnny when they're in Vegas. And
No. The Don says it to Johnny. When he's like, it's too late. The movie already started shooting.
Oh, that's right.
Like, don't worry about it.
They're going over the So when does Michael say it?
Michael
in Vegas to Mo Green.
It's about Mo Green.
To Freddie before Mo Green arrives. Yeah, in the book they call him Freddie.
Yeah, you don't talk to Mo Green like that.
Can make it offer he can't refuse. That's probably the most. That is the line most said in pop culture about this movie. I'm going to have to say, right?
It's probably the most famous. I mean, this movie has a ton of iconic lines, but that's one. I think it was ranked the most number 2 best, most famous quote in movie history. I don't know what number 1 was. I know, which is going to drive people crazy.
How can we? May the force be with you.
I don't know. Rosebud.
Oh wow! Because that was the number. That's considered the best movie ever made, right?
You know what? We'll look it up during the break, and we'll tell the Patreons what the number 1 best quote was.
In the meantime, think about it.
Yeah. So, anything else for minute number 20? For minute Benuso uno.
21. Nothing else for 21.
So Vente is 20?
Venti.
Uno.
Mm-hmm.
Not Vente like the coffee.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I like how you brought up coffee, though.
Oh, yeah? Why is
I
that?
wanted to bring this up, Alex. You haven't had me over in a long while for coffee.
How much should I pay you?
Alex, actually, I should say Robinson. Still haven't learned. Why did you treat me this way? That's all I got.
All right. So, yeah, the minute ends right with the line of him saying either his brains or his signature will wind up on the contract. So it's a nice little tidy ending there to the story. So we'll have to find out. And also, this is the first time Al Pacino really has like this minute is just Al Pacino more or less talking. You know, Kay gives a couple of prompts like, well, what do you mean, Michael? You know, other than that, it's pretty much a monologue.
Yeah.
So it's really the first time we get to see Al Pacino as Michael, kind of what kind of person he is and how he talks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
it's a good scene. What would you like to rate it?
Oh, well, it does not have Marlon Brando is not physically present in the scene, but
-1.
He is summoned, you know, he's conjured by the
+1.
So I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 5.
A 5.
It's one of the most famous, it's the second most quoted line in movie history.
Yeah.
It's a great plus the minute is like a whole tip to tail story. You know what I mean? It's like a self-contained little unit. So
yeah.
But anyway, that's what I would give it, just because it's a
yeah.
You're gonna
I'm gonna give it a 4.
4?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're right. It's a great story, and it is an iconic story.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
Like you said, though, we
you're
can't give
selling
everything
it to
5.
But you're selling it to me. Are you telling me that I either need to rate this 5 or my brains are going to be on this laptop?
Well, also, I don't know if we mentioned this, but you can only give 4 5s. No, not 4. We've done more than 4 already, haven't we? You can only do 25s the whole time.
Oh my gosh!
So we must be getting
keeping
close.
track.
Already.
Oh, definitely. We haven't even gotten into some of the best scenes. You're like one of those teachers that starts the school year by saying, "Don't give any A's the first marking period."
Oh, really? Is that a thing?
Oh, it's not really a thing these days, but apparently
we should get a teacher in here to talk to them about
should,
whether or not that's true or not. So.
It would be great to get a panel of experts to give their different analyses of what goes on.
Yeah.
Bonus episode, we'll do that.
Yeah, maybe. All right, so
you sold me. I'm giving it a 5.
Giving it a 5. All right, put that.
You made me an offer I couldn't refuse.
Either he would rate that episode a 5 or anyway. So so I guess that'll wrap up minute 21.
Yeah. One more thing. I do want to take my guess as to what the most iconic, most repeated movie line
the number
is.
one movie quote of all time.
And the very next day, he accepted a certified check for $1,000. Right?
It's like the
that
scene in order of all the.
I hear it all the time.
It's true.
It's
yeah.
applicable in so many settings.
It totally is. All right, so we're on Twitter at Godfather Minute, so you can follow us over there. We have the Facebook page, and don't forget Fredo Corleone's Mickey Mouse Nightclub, where you can come and talk with us and other listeners.
And where everybody gets respect.
Everybody gets respect, even Fredo.
Where no one g's stepped over.
Yeah.
Where everybody gets stepped over.
Yeah, that's true. It's tough.
It's a different clientele. Very different depending on how you market them.
I was picturing there being one person at Fredo's nightclub who's like the designated lowest person. So that's the person that everyone gets to treat like, because you can't have everyone be on top because that defeats the whole purpose.
So that guy works there and you go in just to be a jerk to him?
Yeah, he's like a schlub. You just like, throw drinks in his face and just smack him around because he's smack around his brother.
So. You smacked around his brother?
All right, then. So stick
around for the bonus content.
Yep. And until then, take the gun and leave the cannoli. Godfather Minute.